Hello and welcome back to Lorcana Villain. My name is Baker and today we're taking a look at some more Into the Inklands card reveals, and we'll be taking a look at all the cards that are going to be available in the new starter decks that we're getting for the next set. They were revealed last night courtesy of The Gamer, who will be linked down below. So yeah, we're going to take a look at a bunch more cards and then look at all the cards that we're going to get in the next set of starter decks, which is very exciting. I also want to start off by... I want to apologise. My last, definitely 3 or 4 videos at least, I've had some quite bad editing mistakes in them. I mean, it's not new for me to have minor editing mistakes in my videos, but small things like a card popping up as opposed to fading in, or my logo disappearing too early. Those are small things, and no one's ever said anything about it, and I think most of you understand I'm just one guy doing this on my own, and mistakes are going to happen, so thank you for your patience. But the last 3 or 4 videos I've been quite annoyed at myself with silly things like images hovering around the screen where I've put too many keyframes, for those of you that know editing, and just silly fit. And the last set of deck lists, one of the lists had like 8 copies of Mini and 8 copies of Snake, and was missing the 4 Fox that should be in there. So yeah, it was a bit of a mess. So I just want to apologise for that, and I will strive to do better. But yeah, we're going to push on with some card reveals. So let's take a look. So the quality of the images may differ, and there are a few that I still don't have English copies for, but I'm going to try and produce it in my normal editing way as much as possible. So let's start off with a big boy. We've got Chernabog. I'm pretty sure that's how that you're meant to say that. From Fantasia. Look at this artwork. This is absolutely unreal. And yeah, Fantasia is one heck of a film, which if you haven't seen, I recommend you you take the time to watch. It's pretty weird, and it's pretty dark, and that's why I like it. And yeah, this is based on the in Slavic mythology, based on the god of the night. So yeah, a very famous old school character for Disney, and it's great to see him in the game. And yeah, he's a big boy. He's a 10 cost uninkable 9/9 stat line, quests for 2 and 2 abilities. And he's also a villain, so that could be relevant. The actual names of the abilities, I'm not sure if they're perfect translations, but the actual effects will be accurate. So first ability, we've got the Power of Evil. For each character card in your discard pile, you pay 1 less ink to play this character. So immediately pretty interesting. We'll go straight on. We've got Summoning the Spirits. When you play this character, shuffle all character cards from your discard pile back into your deck. So a very unique ability. I mean, we've got things like Magic Broom that shuffles 1, but yeah, this is... You could be cycling a lot of characters back into your deck depending on what point of the game you're at. That isn't always going to be good, is the first thing that I think is worth saying, because if you're shuffling back in a lot of... I mean, the assumption here is you play a lot of low-cost characters that you can get out early game, and you can spread and have them go to the discard and be banished quite quickly and be able to get this down at a relatively early turn. But if you're doing that, then you are then making your deck less consistent. Don't get me wrong, some of these low-cost characters you may be glad to see again. Maybe you're shuffling back in like aggro Lilos, and bits and bobs that you wouldn't mind seeing again. But you are adding in more of the lower-cost stuff, and you might go through all that. And I don't want to use the old-fashioned dice to removal, but if you've shuffled that many cards back into your deck, that isn't always going to be great, especially if he then just immediately gets removed. The 1 ink less for each character in your discard as well. That's pretty cool. I mean, again, if we're playing something quite aggro and we use the first few turns of the game... Sorry, just make sure my audio's recording. If you're using the first few turns of the game to play a lot of like 1-2 cost characters, then you could potentially get this down by maybe turn 6, maybe earlier if we're playing with Sapphire and we've got Ramp. Overall, I don't think it's great. I think it has a place in Mufasa decks, as a 1 or a 2 of, and maybe other aggro decks that are just inherently aggro and playing a lot of early characters. Maybe they find room for 1. I'm not convinced of it because, again, even aggro decks do eventually want to see some of their other cards, whether if you're playing with Amethyst and you want to see the foxes, and although you could be replenishing the foxes, yeah, it's not going to consistently be a good thing to shuffle your discard back in. Sometimes it will. I don't think this card is great, honestly. Personally, I think Mufasa, it has potentially a 1 or 2 of, because it's a great hit off of Mufasa, really good hit. Because look at that stat line, and quest big, and if you're hitting this off of Mufasa, then you are at least shuffling back a Mufasa, and Mufasa can go down from as early as turn 4. So there are going to be worlds where it's going to be really nice to hit this, and you're just shuffling back a Mufasa and maybe 1 or 2 lower cost characters. I think that's its main place. Again, perhaps in just aggro decks, perhaps they find room for 1. Not certain. Definitely an interesting card, and definitely something that I think is going to be important in the game as time goes on, and we get more, and maybe things that... I was about to say discard, like graveyard effects, but most graveyard effects, you want them in the discard already. I don't see... Unless we get a card that says if this card is shuffled back into your deck from the discard pile, it does a thing. Not sure. I don't think you're going to see loads of this. I think Mufasa has a place. Maybe some aggro decks test it. But definitely an interesting one that I think in the future is probably going to be something. Get your copies of this for the future. I'm not convinced it sees a ton of play early. And going straight on, we have Chernabog's Minions. These are my minions. These are my Canadian minions. 1 cost, Inkable and Amethyst. 2/1 stat line, quests for 1. I don't know what the ability's called, but when this character quests, you may banish him to draw 1 card. So obviously really thematic with the Chernabog to be able to put these down, get some quest off, and be drawing more cards while just filling up your discard pile. So yeah, like, maybe this could be an addition in, like, Amethyst Mufasa, potentially. I don't know. It's interesting to say the least, and again, it's really cool that it synchronizes well with Chernabog, but I don't think Chernabog is good enough that I want to dedicate loads of spaces to just getting him online earlier. I don't know. My early call is that I don't see it seeing play with Chernabog, even though it's meant to support it. I think Chernabog would be played in just a Mufasa deck that maybe isn't even pairing with Amethyst, and even if it is, maybe it doesn't want these, because you don't want tons of low-cost characters as it is. It replaces itself, and if you're in that situation where it's on the field and you know your opponent's got a character that's going to challenge and banish you anyway, then your thought trail could be, well, I might as well banish myself and draw a card. Great. You're getting an extra card, that's cool, but then now they don't need to challenge into you and they can just quest. I'm not sure. It's alright. I'm not blown away by this particularly. Next up, we've got Kokomora, a 3-cost uninkable ruby card, 3/2 stat line, quest for 1, and loot. If you play this character, or when you play this character, all opposing players lose 1 lore. And what makes him really interesting is my man is a pirate. So people that are building pirate decks with the Jolly Roger, rejoice, we have another pirate. I'm not convinced it makes its way in because it's uninkable. Again, with all pirates, we kind of have to... I think it's safe to assume they will have rush, because they can move to, like, again, you've got to have the Jolly Roger in play, but you can move there for free if you're a pirate. So if it's already down, then you can put this down turn 3 and move it there for free, and it's got rush. So, and a 3/2 stat line's not bad by any means, and denying lore, yeah, I think this has a place in the pirate deck, actually. Probably not at max counts, but just for more pirates, really. So yeah, it's good to have him. Next up, we've got Chief Tui, Proud of Montanui, Storyborn Mentor King, 4-cost inkable, 3/4 with and quest for 2. So obviously, King or Mentor could become significant, or if there's a Floodborn that can shift on top of him. As it stands, I don't see him seeing play. That 4-drop in Steel, like, immediately, Hans strikes me as a better card to put down. Maybe even Donald Duck with Bodyguard, or even the Beast, Forbidding Recluse, who quests for 1 less, but it's the same stat line, same cost, and you get to do 1 ping to to any character. It doesn't even have to be a damage character. So not significant at the moment, but if these characterizations or just the name Chief Tui for a Floodborn become relevant, then he could see play. Next up, we've got Gramma Tala, Keeper of Ancestral Stories. Sapphire card, 4-cost inkable, 3/3, quests for 1, and the ability, when you play this character, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may add 1 to your hand, put the rest on to the bottom of your deck. So this is immediately seems pretty good. It's card draw at the end of the day, and you get to choose one of the top 2. So that in itself is pretty cool. I don't have high hopes for it. I think Sapphire specifically, more often than not, wants to put down Flavisham turn 4, or even Nick Wild for a recycled Porpsicle. It's all right. It could end up seeing play. Sapphire obviously doesn't have tons of card draw, but it's doing all right with Flavisham's doing a lot of the work for it. And again, you tend to pair it with Amethyst or Steel, where you've got card draw there. Yeah, potentially. I'm not writing her off, but it's not going to be an immediate add-in for my Sapphire decks necessarily. Again, she's a mentor, so that could come up at any time. But yeah, certainly an interesting card and good for like draft and sealed. Next up, a very interesting one, but it does break my villainous little heart, my pirate little heart, just a little bit. We've got Peter Pan, who is a 6-cost inkable from Ruby, 4/5 stat line, quests for 2, shift 4. So we have 2 Peter Pans at the moment in Ruby, one of them from the first chapter, who's a 3-cost uninkable with Rush, and then recently revealed coming up in Into the Inklands, we have the Neverland Hero, 3-cost inkable, 1/3 stat line, also with Rush, quest for 2, and gains +2 strength if we have a Tinkerbell in play. So good to have targets for it to shift onto. He has Evasive. Rush and Evasive are very suitable Peter Pan things. And the ability, You're Next. Whenever he challenges a pirate character, this character takes no damage from the challenge. First thing that caught me when looking at this, other than my pirate heart crying a little bit, was this is phrased strangely or inconsistently from what I would have expected. Am I the only one that feels this way? I feel like any other card would have said, whenever this card, or whenever this character challenges a pirate character, this character takes no damage from the challenge. But here it's saying whenever he challenges. That's inconsistent, right? Do we have any other cards that word it that way? Am I being silly? Please either tell me off or validate me. But nonetheless, the ability, if pirates do end up being really good, then you probably play this even in your own pirate deck for the mirror. Yeah, this absolutely lives on the sword of how good pirates end up being. If you're not seeing a lot of pirates, then I don't think there's tons of use for him straight away. He's a 6-cost that we can put down on turn 4. So when we start getting 6-cost songs, that maybe becomes relevant. Evasive is always cool, and with 4/5 stat line, he's going to be difficult to get over. Even if pirates don't become a thing, if there ever becomes a reason to play the other Peter Pans, maybe you play this just because it's quite a good stat line for an evasive character. But yeah, it does break my pirate little heart a little bit. But what makes my pirate little heart feel 100 times better is Captain Hook, Master Swordsman. 5-cost inkable, 5/4 stat line, quest for 1, Dreamborn Villain Pirate Captain, and 2 abilities. The second one is Man to Man. Characters named Peter Pan lose evasive and can't gain evasive. I love the interaction between the two. Makes sense, and yeah, it's just lovely to see it depicted through mechanics that suit the characters. And obviously there was the Rush Captain Hook in Chapter 1, who have, I think it was called You Cowards, where opposing characters with evasive gained Reckless. So yeah, I'm loving the continuation of the theming. And yeah, we just looked at the Peter Pan that has evasive that people might play to respond to pirate meta. Pirate meta's already a thing as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's obviously something that will annoy them. You annoy each other, like you're not doing any damage to Peter Pan when he challenges you. You can still challenge him and do damage. But if he challenges you, then you're not then the Peter Pan isn't taking any damage. But he ignores the evasive so that he can do the challenging. So beautiful interaction between the two. But the most exciting exciting thing about this card is Nemesis. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, ready this character. He can't quest for the rest of the turn. We got ourselves a cheaper inkable Scar, nearly. Obviously Scar is a 6, hits for 6 and 5 willpower, so there will be times where that matters. I mean, one interaction straight away is this dies to Fox. But, again, if we assume he has Rush, because we've got the Jolly Roger out, then this is a better Maui. Well, I say better, again, Maui hits 6 and also has the 5 willpower, so the same stat line as Scar. So that is going to matter occasionally, but again, if you're challenging multiple things, then you just sequence, hopefully correctly. First of all, you challenge the thing that has 1, 2, or 3 strength, and then you challenge the thing that would have taken you out if you challenged it first. So I really like this card. I don't think this... I mean, even in a pirate deck, I think there's probably a chance you still play 1 Maui, maybe even 2. But you absolutely max out on these. It's a yeah, again, assuming you've got Rush, it's a perfect respectable stat line, and he can quest. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this Captain Hook. Oh, and of course we've got the Captain Hook's Rapier, so we can become a 6/4 if we're playing with steel. But yeah, love this card. Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Had to do it, it's a classic. Right, what to say about this card other than it is fantastic, and so many people are so pleased to see it. Obviously is similar to Ursula in the respect that it's going to check those be prepared, those whole new worlds, etc. Let's read it first. 2-cost inkable, action song. 2 or more can exert to sing for free. Chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of your choice. So the difference between this and Ursula, other than the obvious that Ursula is in Emerald and is a body, but it specifically has to be a song card, whereas this is just a non-character card, so you're hitting those actions. So this could be Nothing to Hide, Fire the Cannons, Smash, You Have Forgotten Me, and Dragon's Fire. I think those are the most notable actions that you can also deal with for this. Yeah, this is fantastic. This is an S tier card. The fact that we can sing it as well, and it's in amber, so it's something else that can we can tilt our flute to. Knowledge is always good. Yeah, this is absolutely game defining, and this has the best chance of like combating Ruby Amethyst. Really, it's not going to go away. But yeah, this is a healthy card for us to have, I must admit, and will likely be 4-ofs in pretty much every Amber deck until the meta takes a shape where no one's playing songs anymore, which I very much doubt is going to happen. Maybe we get to a point where it's less of the field. Who knows? Maybe it becomes all Mufasa decks. So maybe as a meta response, it becomes a lower count. But I don't see this ever not being included in Amber decks. S tier card, fantastic art. You love to see it. Next up in Amber, we've got Nani, a 5-cost inkable, 3/6, protective sister, storyborn hero, quest for 2, and bodyguard. So the comparisons you'd make immediately are with Maximus and Goofy, who both have the same cost, slightly different stat line. I think 9 times out of 10, you would play this one for the extra lore. Goofy can remove damage from Musketeers. I don't think that's going to become relevant. And Maximus does have support, so maybe a split or even both. But I think most of the time you prioritise the extra lore. The only thing that might keep this out is, because I think Pluto's going to be really good, not only the uninkable 1-drop, but the Floodborn that you can play as early as turn 5, and even earlier if you've got things like Docks and Lanterns or whatever it might be. So maybe just because of having them, there's not enough spaces that you to include this, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do find room for it, and any decks that just want to play loads of bodyguards to go with things like Tiana probably find a place for this. So yeah, great card. Next up at Emerald, we've got Prince John, False King, 5-cost uninkable, 2/4, quest for 2, and collecting taxes. Whenever this character quests, every opponent with more lore than you loses 2 lore. 2 lore is big. I don't think this sees play. 5-drop is such a competitive slot in Emerald, as it's just uninkables in general. And I think if you're playing Emerald most of the time, you are ahead in the lore race. The exception might be Bucky. I don't think Bucky wants to play this. It's an interesting card. I don't see it seeing play, at least not yet. Next up, we've got Maid Marian. Lovely to see her. Delightful Dreamer. 5-cost Inkable, 4/4, quest for 2. When you play this character, chosen character gets -2 strength this turn. This doesn't immediately see play, but as a meta response, if this maths ends up really mattering for Sapphire against the common things that it's seeing, then this could absolutely find its way into format. I don't think I can say anything more than that. I don't think it's something that you'll immediately test with, but yeah, it's a meta response that could come up if that maths ends up really mattering. Next up, we've got Repair, 2-cost Inkable action, remove up to 3 damage from one of your locations or characters. The fact that this is diverse for locations and characters is obviously good. 2-cost and Inkable is nice and cheap. Obviously, if we're moving from characters, then we might be triggering some things like Grandpuppy or the Amber Rapunzel, the one that lets you draw cards when you move characters. And again, its significance to locations, similar to what I said last set of card reviews. All these cards that heal locations a little bit for a couple of health. We don't know. We need to see what location meta looks like, and because I have a feeling that locations are going to become it gets taken out in one. It's either surviving or it's being taken out completely in one turn. I could be wrong, and it could be that certain decks need to two-turn it and chip away at it. But I imagine most of the time it's either just going to get hard banished by Wrath of the Titans or Rise of the Titans, or it's just going to be either like Maui or, again, we've got loads of pirates with big strength now. So it's not even just, dice to Maui, it's now dice to pirates. So, dice to pirates, I'm claiming that. But yeah, it depends entirely what location meta looks like. If locations in Sapphire end up being good, and as the meta develops, we find like it seems to find that it's opposing decks are chipping away at it a bit. Maybe this becomes relevant, but not a lot more to say yet. Next up, we've got Scrooge Mcduck, Uncle Moneybags. Incredible art, absolutely breathtaking. 2-cost Inkable, 1/3, quests for 1, and Treasure Finder. Whenever this character quests, you may pay 1 less ink for the next item you play this turn. So very much the main theme of Sapphire in this set is reducing our item cost. We've also got Scrooge's Top Hat, which is the item version of this, 2-cost uninkable, and you can tilt it to pay an item cheaper. So you could put this down turn 2, and then turn 3, you quest him, and you can immediately pay, turn 3, you ink to 3, you quest the Scrooge Mcduck, you're now paying the top hat for just 1, so you've got 2 ink left to play with, and then you can tilt the top hat and play a 3-cost item, so you can immediately get down your Fishbone Quill or something like that. Maybe you're playing with Amethyst and you're getting down your Sorcerer's Spellbook. But yeah, it's certainly interesting. It will absolutely be, if the item deck is a thing, this will absolutely be an include. And by a thing, I mean something to take seriously as a top meta deck, or at least a competitive meta deck that we see do well. But yeah, a great card to have for item support. 4-cost uninkable, 1/4 stat line, quests for 1, and find new friends. When you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal 1 character card you find and put it into your hand. Place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So it is a built-in Be Our Guest, which is pretty cool. Again, it's card draw essentially, but you get to. You're +1ing just from putting this down, assuming there's a character in your top 4 cards. You could miss, but that shouldn't be happening a lot. It's all right. Also gives the +2 strength to that Peter Pan we mentioned, the Ruby one. So if you're playing Ruby Amber, it's okay. It's another uninkable. I think it's a bit expensive. The 4 willpower, I think, is the thing that might matter the most, because I don't know, just the cards I'm seeing, I feel like I think a lot of cards need to have 4 willpower to survive. I mean, again, still dice to Fox. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's a cool card, but I don't have high hopes for it immediately seeing meta play. See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me. And no one knows how far it goes. In the wind, in my sail, on the sea stays behind me. One day I'll know. If I go, there's just no telling how far I'll go. Beautiful song. Love Moana. Definitely a favourite among more modern Disney films. So yeah, beautiful art. 4-cost uninkable song. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck. Put one into your hand and the other into your inkwell face down and exerted. I like this card. I think the best synergy we're going to have with this is with Amber as another card that we can play with our Singer 4 characters, Sebastian and Miss Bianca. Because if you put one of those, Sebastian or Miss Bianca, down on turn 2, then on turn 3 you can sing this, it's replacing itself, it's taking you up to 4 ink, assuming you inked that turn, and then it's your turn 3, you can then just play Mickey, and then you're going to 5 ink. So you can go into your turn 4 with 6 ink to play with, which is one heck of a jump. So I think that definitely has some great synergy. It would be nice if we can get some other colours that have a Singer 4 character. Thing is, we probably need some more 4-cost songs to make it really worth it. In Sapphire, there's 4 dozen eggs, which isn't awful. Again, allows you to be more aggressive early game and probably survive the hit. And the resist 2 that you get lasts until the start of your next turn. So that could be an option. Unfortunately, Amber's only 4-cost song is Hakuna Matata, which probably isn't a great hit with this. But even if your Singer 4 characters are singing the 2 costs like Bare Necessities, Be Our Guest, Hero to Hero, it's not going to feel like you're getting full value because any 2 costs can sing them. So it's probably not enough. We probably need some more 4-cost songs in Sapphire and or Amber to make that worth it, but I feel like that's where it would get its best synergy. Outside of a pairing with Amber, it's still alright. It's ramp, you're getting to dig and put the card you want into your hand, and then the card that may be irrelevant to be the one to go into the inkwell, or even if it's just uninkable. So it's interesting. I don't think it's going to immediately see play. Again, it depends what 4-cost characters we're playing as well. I mean, if it Flavisham, you could do this, but then you're not questing to get the item removal. I don't think that synergizes perfectly. We're getting Flintheart Glomgold with the evasive during your turn. So that's someone that could sing this. Nick Wilde can sing this. There's Sisu, but again, really you want to be questing with her to get her ability off. Yeah, not a whole lot of others, so I don't think this sees play straight away. If you're playing Sapphire Amber, then maybe you do. I think we would need to see just how good the 4 dozen eggs are, because you don't want to be putting all these slots for Singer 4 characters with just how far I'll go as your main way that you're going to get value from that. But maybe 4 dozen eggs is enough. But yeah, definitely a cool card, and I think as we get more Singer 4 characters in other colours, and maybe just more characters that can sing this more suitably, then yeah, it definitely sees some testing, but I've got a feeling it's not something that's going to immediately see a high level of play. Next up, a really cool one. I've said I love the cards that are just a character's famous item. We have Maui's Fishhook. 3-cost inkable and 2 abilities. It's Maui time. If you have a character named Maui in play, you may use this item's shapeshift ability for free. Worth noting, doesn't say that you have to use it on the Maui. Doesn't say you may use the shapeshift ability for free if you choose Maui. You just need to have Maui on the field, and then you get this for free on any. Just a note though, it has to be on the board. You have to have paid the 3 ink to have put it on the board. For free, it's talking about the 2 ink that you need to pay for shapeshift. I would assume you still have to exert. But nonetheless, the shapeshift ability is choose one. Chosen character gains evasive into the start of your next turn, or chosen character gets +3 strength this turn. So obviously there's the Maui Hero to All that we got in Chapter 1 that sees a ton of play. There's also a Steel Maui, but I don't think that's going to be very relevant. And then we've had revealed that we're getting the Giant Hawk Maui, who is a 3-cost uninkable with a 5/2 stat line and has Reckless, but if you have a character named HeiHei on board, then I think the HeiHei has to quest as well. Then you lose Reckless and get a +1 lore. So this can turn us into a 8/2, or it can turn the Maui hero to all into a 9/5. And there's also the whale Maui that we looked at, who has 8 strength, so that can become 11. That's probably never going to happen. Well, not never. You never know how many more characters are. I mean, Chernabog has 9 willpower, so maybe you do need to. But yeah, just the diversity of this, being able to +3 or give evasive. And again, I just gave examples of using this on Maui. You don't have to use this on Maui. You just get to do this for free if you have a Maui on board. And even if you don't have a Maui on board, which really, if you're playing this fishhook, you want to be playing lots of counts of Maui, but you can still use it, and it's a pretty good ability. It's not an instant add to Ruby decks, but there's definitely some brewing to be done here for a Maui deck. Final few cards now. All these images are from the starter deck reveals that were done. So none of them are fantastic quality, but they are in English. We've got HeiHei, Accidental Explorer. Love it. 2-cost inkable, 3/2, quest for 1, and Mindless Wandering. Man, I love this game. Once per turn, when this character moves to a location, each opponent loses 1 lore. I think there's something here. Worth noting, if you're playing this with the Giant Hawk, then there's synergy there, because our Giant Hawk wants a HeiHei on board to lose Reckless and gain a lore. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, 2 willpower, dies to Teeth and Ambitions, let the storm rage on, we're getting new stuff. So yeah, but it's still cheap, it's inkable, and if you're just not questing with this, and you're just moving this to a location every turn, this could get quite annoying. I think there's something here. I definitely, if locations end up being good for Ruby, which they're looking like they might be, even if you discount Jolly Roger, just like Jim Hawkins, and Ruby got everything again. Just got everything. Kind of. It got enough. But yeah, I think there's something here. If locations end up being pretty good, then I think this is quite a reasonable 1-drop to just, you never quest with it, you just move them to a location every turn. And if you're playing if you're playing with silver, which is probably the combination that people are thinking of the most for pirates, you have Map of Treasure Planet, so you can move this for free. Yeah, I think there's something here. This is a really interesting card and goated artwork. Next up, we've got Wildcat Mechanic, 3-cost inkable, 2/3, evasive and disassemble. Exert, banish chosen item. So Emerald got some item removal the other day. I think it was the cow one. I can't remember what it's called. Hopefully you know what I mean by the cow one. So that was cool. It was it's Emerald's only item removal. This is kind of really good. If items end up being good, then this really annoys them. This is not a bad stat line. 3-cost inkable is quite reasonable, and you've got evasive, so I think this is a really good card. Again, it falls on the shield of how good items end up being, but even if let's pretend that all the new item stuff that we're getting, which is mostly Lucky Dime, let's pretend that none of it's good. You got to still assume we're going to see Fishbone Quills, Sorcerer's Spellbook, Sleepy's Flutes. So this is a great card, and Emerald do deserve it, to be honest. But yeah, how much it's used will depend on how good items are. I mean, there's things like Benja that do this straight away just for being a come-into-play ability, which I would argue a lot of the time is going to be better, but you can get this off multiple times, so this can be even more annoying. So yeah, great card. Next up for Ruby, we've got Moana, Undeterred Voyager, 4-cost inkable, 3/4. She's a princess, which is relevant. Quest for 1 and evasive. Evasive's pretty good. 3/4 stat line is respectable. And now we have a card that we can shift our Born Leader Moana onto, the 5-cost inkable, 4/4. You can shift 3, so you can shift onto this on turn 5 for 3, and then have a couple of ink left to play with. And she has Welcome to My Boat whenever this character quests while at a location. Ready all other characters here. They can't quest for the rest of the turn. And let's not forget that Ruby has, what's it called? Voyage. The one where you can move 2 characters to a location for free. We've got Jim Hawkins, so yeah, if that Moana ends up being any good, then this is probably your best shift option. Although you might not even want to be fair, I'm not convinced. I think you would want a 1 or a 2 cost, because sometimes you might be fine with just playing the Floodborn without a shift target, but it's nice to have one regardless. And to be fair, Ruby does have another Moana from first chapter, Chosen by the Ocean. 5 cost inkable, 2/6, quest for 2. And when you play this character, you may banish chosen character called T-Car, which said from the beginning, as soon as T-Car ends up being really good, this potentially comes as an answer, depending on how much T-Car you're seeing. But yeah, nothing more to say about Moana, but good to see her. Next up, we've got Roly, Hungry Pup. 3 cost inkable, 3/3, quest for 1, and support. Not a lot to say here, but dead cute. Next up, we've got Webby Vanderquack. Look at the great name, great art. 3 cost inkable with a 3/4 stat line. Nothing much to say. It's not a. To be fair, for a 3 cost, that's a pretty good stat line. So keep your eye on her as a meta response if this maths ends up really mattering, and I've got a feeling it's gonna. Again, still dies to Fox, but with even more colours are getting more ways of hitting 3 quite easily. So I think this 4th willpower is going to end up mattering. So maybe. It's still, you want to be doing a little bit more in your turn 3, I think, most of the time. I don't know, there's a chance, because this 4 willpower I think will be significant. And we've got Simba, Scrappy Cub, 2 cost inkable, 1/1, and quest for 3. So this is Ruby's Pinocchio. So aggro options for Ruby, you'd love to see it. And that is it for all the card reveals. I believe I am completely caught up. I may have missed 1 or 2 along the way. And knowing my luck, by the time this video comes out, there's been a couple more. But I think I'm pretty caught up now. So I'm glad to see that. Let's also take a quick look at the confirmed starter decks that we are getting. We're getting 1 Amber Emerald. And we're getting 1 Ruby Sapphire. Let's look at the Amber Emerald first. We're getting the Pongo that we've seen as the foil. We're getting the Peter Pan, who gains lore equal to a location's lore when he moves there. We're getting all the different arts for the Dalmatian puppy, 2 costs, 3 copies of Kida, 1 Lucky, a couple of Nanis here, a couple of patches. We're getting the Pluto and the baby Plutos, 3 copies of the baby Pluto, so that's going to be worth picking this up for sure. 3 copies of Roly, we're getting 2 copies of that Tinkerbell, the new one. The Wendy Darlings are good to see. We're also getting locations in here. We've got the Neverland and Deville Manor later on in the list. 3 copies of Cubby, 2 Don Carnage. We're getting 2 of the Flotsam and Jetsam, which is pretty cool. Helga Sinclair, we're also seeing reprints from Chapter 1. We're getting 2 copies of Horace, 2 copies of Jasper. They've said that this will happen in future starter decks. There'll be at least a couple of cards that are from older sets. 2 copies of Kit Cloudwalker. We're getting the Robin Hood, the 4 lore one, 6 cost inkable, so that's really cool. 1 copy of Starkey, Yo-Ho, drink up my hearties, Yo-Ho, words are hard. A couple of these Wildcats, so that's something else that's going to make it worth picking this up. A couple more reprints, Hypnotize and Improvise. Getting 2 copies of Strike a Good Match, which is definitely going to be one of Emerald's better cards, just because it's card draw. And then, as I mentioned, 3 copies of Deville Manor. So yeah, this one looks pretty good, with a few staples that are going to make it worth picking up, I would say. And then the Ruby Sapphire deck, the foils, we've got Moana and Scrooge McDuck, which is really cool. 3 copies of PEDDLER. We're getting the HeiHeis that I think are interesting. We're getting our pirate friend here. We're getting the Maui Giant Hawks, a reprint of the mini, Always Classy. 3 copies of the Moana that we can use to shift our Floodborn version. Just 1 copy of the Aggro Simba. We get a couple of the Webbies, a couple of Dragonfires that are reprints. Voyage is definitely going to be worth picking this up. In fact, the Maui's Fishhook is cool. The Sumerian Talisman, I think, has some promise. And Grabar, again, if locations are good, this would probably be one of the good ones to play because it's cheap and has 2 lore in it. A couple of Cogsworth, which are reprints. We're getting Deweys. And here's the others. For a minute, I thought they were just giving Deweys and not giving Huey or Louie, but they've just spread them out for some reason. But yeah, we're getting copies of Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Looks like Huey being the good one is the one we get least of. We're getting Duke Weaselton, which is a reprint from Rise of the Floodborn. A couple of copies of Flintheart Glomgold. A couple of Flounders. Shout out to Citizens of Lorcana. Gramma Tala, who I said, like, it's card draw, but I don't have high hopes for her, but she's going to be great for like starter deck formats and sealed and draft. So love to see it. We're getting Gyro Gearloose, a couple of Maid Marians, a couple of the Scrooge Mcducks, good to see, a couple of Vault Doors, and a couple of Montanuis. So yeah, the starter decks look good. I think you probably get more staples from, not necessarily staples, but things that might go into even lower tier decks in the Amber Emerald, I would say. The Ruby Sapphire Voyage is definitely going to be worth it. The Simba, the locations, the Scrooge possibly. But the Emerald having definitely the Wildcat's going to be important. Strike a good match is going to be important. The Plutos are going to be very important. The Wendy might be. Obviously the locations again. Don Carnage seems okay. Peter Pan could be good if locations are good enough. So they both seem alright. But yeah, we're going to leave it there. We've definitely overrun, but I think I should be caught up with card reviews, and it's great to see the 2 starter decks. Which of the 2 starter decks would you... I mean, I assume some people, if you're in a position to, then you would probably get both. But if you were just going to pick one, which would you go for? Which of the cards that we've revealed today are you the most excited for? Is there anything that I've overrated? Is there anything that I've underrated? Let me know down in the comments. But that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe for all things Lorcana. Hit the like button to show your support, and we'll see you soon.